Hello, Hot Nerd Network family. Welcome back to another exciting movie review. I am Hot Nerd Cheryl, and I'm excited that one of my dearest is here with me today to co host because we are going to be doing a movie review of the movie Origin. This is a movie that's based on Isabel Wilkerson's book Cast: The Origins of Our Discontents. I hope I'm saying that right, Janine. I think I
Yes.
am.
Yes.
Um, and it's directed by A. Verney and or Duvernay. I was working on my pronunciations, and the lead actors who are performing in the movie are Anjune Ellis Taylor and John Berthenol, or Berthel, and he plays her husband in the movie, and of course, wonderful Niecy Nash Betts. So those are the main stars, but there are lots of other top African American stars that kind of snuck in there. But we're excited. We'll talk about that. So Ordrin overviews the chronicles of the tragedy and triumph of Isabel Wilkerson, who's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, of how she investigates the global phenomenon of epic proportions, and we'll talk more about it. And It's going to go through really personal loss that she has, as well as how she went through this journey to bring this whole concept of a caste system to us in this movie. It was brilliant, it was beautiful, and it was just so historical. I learned so much. So, welcome, Janine, to your first Hot Nerd Network movie recap. We're going to be talking about having a few questions in regards to the movie Origin. And our first topic and questions that we came up with was the riveting moments. So we can just kind of discuss the scenes and the moments that really affected us overall in the movie. I had written down about the first thing that led the whole journey was the murder of Trayvon Martin, which I didn't realize when I was watching this movie that was going to be the foundation of how she started this journey. But what are your thoughts on the murder and how that affected her journey with this book?
Well, as I mentioned to you, I will say that that was like coming out of the gate. That's how she started the movie with him on the phone, and I actually in the movie theater, I was kind of holding on to my seat to find to just kind of get an idea of what her next where she was going to go next with it. And I like that she started it with that coming out of the gate and then went to, another scene because, and I don't want to give too much away now, but for her to start there and then move to the scene where, she's with her mother and then moving into the movie, I think that that was a great how Ava did that. I think that was a great way to kind of get your attention because you just didn't know what was next.
Yeah, and I agree. I like the way she just was very strategic on how she layered us through this story because she walked us into it slowly, and I loved how she didn't shock us because it's very traumatic, you
Yes.
know.
Yes.
For one, it had been so many years. It's not that many years, but it's been a number of years since that murder had happened, that when it opened up, I immediately knew. I was like, "Oh my gosh," and I started to get afraid because I don't like to see it. I know we didn't suffer it, but I don't like to see that, but I knew that it had to be something to this journey in order to get to what she wanted us to see. Ava is just such an artist, and I just thought, yes, her just coming into her, taking it to her mom and then taking it through her journey with getting her mom into a home, which you and I both are, your parents are still here, but I definitely identified with that journey of her mother because of what I did with my parents, and you know that.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, that the Trayvon Martin just being the foundation of this story was just so riveting to me. That was something that really kind of touched me in a very core of the foundation of this movie. So what did you think about how it was a surprise to see Blair Underwood in this movie. I thought that was so so interesting to see
Yes.
come in there. I was like, Blair is always popping up somewhere, isn't he? Uh, and he was the one who kind of, not kind of, he was the one who triggered her to engage her into this project, in my opinion, by really forcing her and shaming her into looking at the video so he could try to talk her into doing a story about it. I don't know that he really realized it was going to morph into this incredible book,
Right.
but I think he initially just wanted her to write a story about it, like in his paper. But what did you think about him and his strategy in doing that to her?
Well, he mentioned how much of an oh, well written. Her stories are almost as if giving you the idea that her words kind of jump off of the pages and that she would be one of the best people to carry on and take on this project. And I feel like the way he kept emphasizing that this is just here, listen to the tapes, and you could get probably where you need to be in terms of, okay, now you have gotten my attention. Because with anything, you can talk about it as much as you want to talk, have the conversation, but it was when those tapes, when you heard the tape, when you could hear the shots, and just the struggle. I think that that's kind of a pivoting moment for her. And moving through the movie, there were other moments where, and again, I don't want to be the person that gives away too much too soon, but there were other moments where she had to do, step back and look at the reality of these things, given the people who, her mother, her husband,
Mhm,
who told her, you
mhm,
know what, this is something you should be doing. And why are you not doing it? It could be, with all of us, there are some things in our life where we just don't want to face because they may trigger trauma that we've had in the past,
mhm.
or just because it, you may think it's too hard that you may not be able to convey it the way you should be able to convey it. And so you shy away from it. But I really feel like that her mother, and her husband were adamant. And then some of the other characters throughout some of their comments, I think she just got to a point where she's like, you know what? I'm going to do this. This is the right thing.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, first I want to tell you that I should have probably told you, and I didn't share with you that we are going to be talking about in the whole movie.
Yes.
So we don't have to hold anything
Oh,
back.
good. Okay.
Because
I just didn't want to do too much too soon.
I know you were going to tell
I
the
know we're going
audience.
to talk about the whole movie. I was just like, I don't want to get ahead of myself.
We're gonna talk about it all. So
Yes.
audience know right now that there
Right.
are going to be things told that if you don't want to know about the movie, then you definitely should see it first before you watch our little video recap here. But yeah, I
Perfect.
wanted you to feel free. So I think that basically she loses the two most important people in her life unexpectedly. That broke my heart to the core when her husband, after they had that conversation that you were just referring to, where he was pushing her to say, why aren't you making this decision? I think you're copping out. You have a skill, you have something that your parents wanted you to share with the world, and you're choosing not to do it because you're afraid, and you need to do it. You can't use your mother as an excuse. And then after that whole conversation, he
Oh,
passes away.
yeah.
That broke my
Unfortunately.
heart.
Oh, when she came out of that bathroom and she saw him laying there, for some reason my heart went out. But I was thinking, oh, he's gonna get up. Oh, she's gonna save him. And
I know.
I was like, this can't be. This is too soon. Too soon. And it took me a moment to kind of gather myself. Like I said, I saw it the first time I saw it. I've seen it 3 times, but the first time I saw it, it was in the movie theater, and I was like, okay, I need to brace myself. I'm here. People are around me, but I definitely kind of the emotion of just her running to him, and then her in the movie later on telling her cousin, I we just didn't have a good time. A good Our last words weren't good words, and I was like, that is, for most people, that's where you are with, sometimes with death, so you have to take those moments as you get them.
Yes, absolutely. And I think also then, her mother was already older, and she went through that journey with Brett, her husband, i- to put her in the assisted living. That's such a guilt thing too. When she was talking about how my mother shouldn't be in that home, I feel like I should be with her. That's why I'm not doing this. And he was trying to get her to understand, well, your mother made that choice. She wanted to do this. She
Right.
did not ask you to give up your life to take care of her.
Right.
Then she loses her mother too. That's a lot. I don't know if I would have had the willpower to write this story and go on the journey that she went on this story with that much loss. But then again, that is what empowered her to go through this journey. I think him being in the background of her mind and her knowing what her mother and her father expected from her,
Right.
I think she just dug in and did it. I'm sorry, you go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, no, I just said right. I think her mother and her husband and her mother dying within the same year. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know. I would have been able to really get myself together enough to pull all this together. And for that, I can appreciate that. That's where I think, like I said, those moments, that was a pivotal moment where she said, this is what they wanted, so let me do this for them. And it was a big part of her getting herself together, because her first her husband, then her mother, and then we move through it, and there's another death with
I
her
know
with her
another
I'm just
Marion.
like, are you
I
kidding
was
me
like,
right
"Oh,
now?
come on, guys." It was a lot, wasn't it?
It was a lot. It was a lot, and I'm like,
Look,
and
this journey.
you are
She lost the
strong.
3 rocks. Yeah, she's
Yes.
strong.
And all of them were, people in her life that meant something to her, that were important, like pillars in her life. And so, speaking to that, I like, you are amazing, because this takes a lot to get through these. These were moments in the movie where I'm like, oh, okay, are you sure? Are you good?
I know. I don't think she was good. I think she was just she I think Marion, that death was something that just helped her finish the journey. That's one of the pivotal moments that I have, I mean, riveting moments that I have, is the conversation that she has with Marion for the last time when she's at the Taj Mahal.
Yes.
I just thought being at the Taj Mahal and that being in the background and knowing that she was there in this kind of holy Indian, I
Right.
know this very spiritual place for the Indians, or for the people of India, and then she's having this conversation where she's basically saying goodbye to her best friend, her cousin, and that was just so beautiful. I just broke down and I cried because
Yeah.
I could not imagine. I thought about that would be so tough for me. And but I'm so glad that Marion was still able to be there for her to support her through the death of her mother and Brett. Because I think if Marion wasn't able to be there for her there, I'm not quite sure how she would have made it through that. So yeah, so then what other did you have? Like, I have like a number of riveting moments, but did you have any on your list that you wanted to kind of share?
Yeah, I did. There was a moment. I don't know if was a friend or would be considered an associate, but when she was having dinner with the friends, and where were they? Were they in Germany? Where the woman tells her about the difference between the Holocaust and
Yeah,
slavery.
they were in
And
Germany
yeah,
last. Mhm,
and
mhm.
so I'm like, so she says that, she was real adamant about it not being a caste, it being racism. And she says to her something along the lines that slavery is rooted in, desegregation, dominating, blacks being dominated for their using them in their bodies as labor. But the Holocaust was, the angle was exterminating, killing people off, wiping them off of the earth. And so to say that there's no need for these people anymore. She said
Mhm.
slavery and the Holocaust were two different things, and it has nothing to do with the caste. It has to do with racism. And so I was kind of puzzled to think that wiping people off of the earth and then using people's labor and their body and labor for profit, and just them you paying for people to profit from your land and for them to build your land up for free. And the Holocaust, I get, move, you really taken to me, slavery was almost killing people off because their identity was gone. There's nothing else that they have. They literally almost didn't have names. Names were attached to them. Their families were gone. Everything about it was gone. So to me, it's parallel in that, okay, you don't see these people anymore because of the extermination of them. However, slavery, you're walking around, you don't know who you are. You could be among your brothers and sisters or not.
Mhm.
And that's going on still today. Like
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
that
Mhm.
is something that's still happening, not to that extreme, but it's still something that's happening for African Americans. So for
Absolutely.
me, I was just like, I'm sorry, who do you think you are? But I guess you can look at it that way.
Yeah. I really I felt like because in the end Isabel, she determines the interconnectivity, as she says, between the Nazis and what they did to the Jews, between the American slavery and the Dalits in India. I
Yes.
think that was the interconnectivity to show that they are all caste systems, right? But what I kind of took from that conversation was because she came back, Isabel came back and let her know,
Right.
was that no, absolutely. What happened to the Jews in the Holocaust was just so tragic, right?
Right.
But, I wrote down, I actually typed it all down. She said, the systematic murder of 6 million Jews,
Yep.
it's a deliberate extermination over many years.
Yep.
And then Isabel comes back and says, well, slavery
It's just
lasted 246 years,
yes.
13 generations of people,
Hmm.
plus another 100 years of Jim Crow, segregation, violence, and murder.
Yes.
That was a great comparison for her to take a step back. I
Yes.
still don't think that I'm gathering that that woman was a Jewish woman, but I don't know. She could have been German, but I was gathering she was Jewish.
Yes.
Um, and that I don't know that she really connected it, but Isabel made sure that it was clear. The Asian gentleman who was with them, and also I think that was her husband, he
Yeah.
himself was like,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
understand that
Lighten up a little.
there is a parallel,
Yes.
and I would not go into a comparison game because in the end, I really do feel like we suffered more. And I'm really feeling that right now myself because I'm in the process of doing my genealogy, and I cannot find my grandmother's birth certificate. I cannot find her name. I can't find her name anywhere. It's like I only know where she married my grandfather,
Wow.
and I don't know her history of going back to her parents and then their parents. I can find it on my father and my father's side of the family and my grandfather, who was married to my grandmother on my mother's side, but not hers. And
Wow.
it's exactly what you just said because the censuses, when you go back and write, each census was different for her.
Right.
The way
Right.
they spelled her name, whether she was Negro, whether she was Indian, whether she was mulatto, they all had different terms for her. And
Yes.
so, what is she really? We won't ever know,
We
right?
never
And
know.
it's hard. It's so
And you can't
hard.
go get and you can't go back to get that. And so what about
No.
that quote that you just said at the end of it? Isabel says, "Oh, we don't have any numbers. There are no numbers for us."
Yes.
Which means
Yes.
that it's a continuum of things. It's not just that it stopped. It's not you have a number. At least you have 600,000. We don't have any numbers because we don't know what happened and how many of our people were hung or killed or burned or whatever they decided they wanted to do with us, because
Mhm.
it's not something that they can track. At least they can track your 600,000, which still is a travesty
Six
because of
million. Six
any
million. It's
I mean,
6,000,000.
I'm sorry, 6 million.
Six
Um,
million.
six
Mhm.
million. Because what is it that we can't track that, and it's still going on. I mean, look at Trayvon. Like, to
Yeah,
me, that's part of that. That is a statistic that you can use towards and use with all of that's going on, because these are murders and things that are happening for no reason at all.
absolutely. And at the end, I mean, to Trayvon is what triggered this, right? But
Right.
I love how they remind us in the end that her book went to number 2 in the New York Times bestseller the day that George Floyd was killed,
Yes.
and then it went to the New York Times bestseller, went to number 1, I think a couple of weeks after that.
Yes.
But
Yes.
you know, that just tells you right there. And since George Floyd, there's been others.
Yeah.
It kind of goes on. We have so many layers of different people who have been murdered since Trayvon. So
Mhm.
it is still going on today. So that it's just, you're right. It's just sad. Thank you for reminding me because I do have that here. So many millions of African Americans murdered from the Middle Passage. That was
Yeah.
so striking to me. From
Yes.
the Middle Passage until the end of legal segregation that goes beyond the realm of an official number.
Yeah.
There is no
There is
number.
no number.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was just so, I don't know, it gives you
Ooh, that just sent a
chills.
chill.
It
That just sent a
really
chill.
does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's
I was just like, oh yeah.
so, did you have any other riveting moments?
Yeah, let me see. I know that this was a time where they were watching, her mother and her husband, and the three of them were watching the, Trayvon on the news, and the
Yes. Yes.
occurrence of what happened. And her mom says, "This is that's such a tragedy. I mean, I can't believe he should have known what to do. He should have known what to say. He should have said what he should have said to that person." And she's like, What do you mean, Mom? What are you talking about? What was he supposed to say? He should have said whatever he was asking him." And she's like, "Well, why would he have to do that?" She said, "Because of the neighborhood he's in, because he's black, because these things should all these are things that are happening to us, and you have to act a certain way." And she's like, "Why would you think that we have to act a certain way?" So her mom says something about acting in a way to keep you safe, right? And her
Mhm.
husband says, "Well, you can't live on what did he say? What's intimidating? You can't live on what's intimidating, right?"
Mhm.
And her
Mhm.
mother looks and pauses, and she says, "Sure you can."
Yep, sure you can,
So
sweet.
sure you can, because I know you're married to my daughter. I get it, and I support it. I'm part of it. But I need you to know that black skin is very different from white skin, and how you live and how you move and strategically. You tell your sons, if you have them, when the police stop you, put your hands where they can see them. Don't make any movements that are too much. And the white people, I'm sure they don't have to tell their kids, look, when you go out, and maybe they do, but it's not to the extent that we are literally like, listen, don't do anything irrational, don't talk back, don't. And why do we have to tell them that? Because it's already embedded that that's who we are, or that there's going to be an incident if you don't, like she said, act in a way that keeps you safe.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. I think Isabel, I felt like she was just, it was striking to her because she's like, it sounds like, Mom, that you're making it Trayvon's fault. And she says, No, I'm not saying it's his fault, but they should just know better. He should have known better. And but it's sad because that's what all our parents had to tell us.
Right.
I know you had to talk. My parents had to talk with me and my brothers that we had to learn how, when we got our license, how do we handle ourselves when the police stop us? And
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
put your hands on the wheel. We always had to make sure that our what do you call it,
License plate registration.
that it's in a
Right.
place where you can
Just
reach it
reach
when
over
you
and get,
see,
yeah.
and you make sure you're explaining to the officer what you're doing from each moment,
Hmm.
because these are life death situations.
Absolutely.
I was in a situation once where, I'm married to a detective, right? Well, he's a retired detective now. And
Hmm.
we got pulled over by a Virginia police officer. And he was like, Sir, I want to let you know that I have an MPD police officer. And then the cop literally said to him, I don't care who you are.
Oh,
Like, oh my gosh, he's talking that way to my husband, who is one of his peers, right?
right.
And so I just, I don't think it's not something that anyone's immune to if you are a person of color. So
Absolutely.
and so I do understand the mother's point, but I understood both Isabel and Brett's point too. It's a shame that we have to do that,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
it's a shame, but it's true. We do still have to do it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So no, what a great moment though. Thank you for remembering that one.
Yes.
Um, do you have any others?
Uh, well, you brought up the 6 million, and that was it. One of those moments. And then her girlfriend. I had the moment of the young man Albright in the pool.
Oh yes, yeah, I
And
had that one too.
I will
Yes.
tell you, I will tell you, I will tell you, I will tell you. I could not even contain myself. It was, I don't know. It's almost like everything stopped moving. Like things around me just stopped moving. Again, having watched it twice, it still is the same. It still is. I still have the same reaction, which is for that young man, and up and through, she said that she could not. She was just months away from being able to interview him because he passed away, and I
Yeah.
would have loved to have heard from him, but part of his soul was lost. I mean, you go to you're on a team with your teammates. You're on a baseball team. Okay, we're going to go to the pool. We're going to go have fun. We're going to eat, and everyone goes, and then the deputy says, "Excuse me, I'm sorry. What's going on? Where are you going?" He's like, "Well, his coach comes over. He's like, he's with us. He's part of the team, sir." "Oh, no, no, no. He's not part of the team." "Well, he's part of the team, but he can't get in that water." Part of the team, and everyone looks around like, what? So he couldn't. He sat on the other side of the fence, like he couldn't even sit inside of the fence where
Oh,
they were, as if the his skin or something was gonna jump off of him into the water. He had to sit on the other side of the fence. They had to feed him food on the other side of the fence, and they're playing and he's watching, just on the outside of the fence. And then when they get to the moment where, oh, well, I feel like they're getting ready to let him in because he has on the swim trunks, he's walking, he gets there on a float, and he's like, "You better not." I mean, he told them 3 times, "You better
he
not
was
touch that water.
petrified. He was
You
petrified.
you
Yes.
better not." And I know he probably want to say, "Just forget it. I don't want to be part of this. I just want to go back home. I just want to sit back on the other side of the fence until we're done, and then I want to go home." Well, my understanding, because I'm still listening to the audiobook, is he walked home after that. He
Wow.
walked a mile and a half home because
Wow.
he just didn't want to get, I guess, in the car. I guess he just didn't want to be part. I mean, I guess he felt some kind of way, which any child would, but he walked all the way home after that, after that whole event. And I don't know, they just, in the book, it says he's just never was the same, because that takes a piece of you. Could you imagine?
Of you. I didn't you find it odd that the coach and the other parents who were with them. For one, I thought it was odd that his parents allowed him to go with them without him being with him during that time period.
Mhm.
I found that to be odd. Then so I'm curious to know, do they speak to that in the book? And because I actually just bought the audiobook, but I did not, I just got it on my Audible
Right,
account, but I haven't
right.
listened to it yet. So thank you for letting me know that there's differences.
Yes.
Um, but I found it odd that the coach would not know that when you went to that pool, you have a black boy with you, and that you weren't expecting, like you're surprised that this is only a colored, I mean only a white pool, like colored people are not allowed to go in it. You can't tell me that they all did not recognize that black people contaminated the pools. That couldn't have been oblivious to I don't see how it could be oblivious to them, the parents or the coach. So that's one. And I think if the coach, that's why I felt bad for the little boy, the one who talked to her, who she did interview, because
Yeah.
he said 9 years old, they didn't know what to
They,
do. They
they
couldn't.
didn't know any better. They didn't
And
know. Like, I don't. If I could go back, I don't know what I would have done different.
Again, he would have did it
Yeah.
because he was like, I didn't know I would have did something different, and he felt
Yes.
so bad that he could not change that for him. And you could tell he really loved him,
Hmm.
and that was his friend. And he said he was the reason we won the game, and
Yes,
he
I mean, you saw it in the movie. He's the reason why he won the game. He ran
we won the
into the
game.
and made the point. So,
Yeah,
and that is a part of it. So in the book, they do speak to his parents just not being able to go, and I guess trusting them enough that they allowed him to just be part of that event. But clearly, like you said, it's just understood that this child could not be part of that, and maybe they just didn't think it would extend to him being one person or him being on the team, or then because I mean they were a little puzzled as to why. What do you mean he can't be part? We would have to drain the whole pool. I'm not sure what's going to be on his skin that's not on everyone else's, but I guess it's something that wipes off in the water. But the
well, yeah, yeah.
just
No,
the
go ahead.
sheer ignorance of them not knowing and thinking that this is going to be a whole phenomenon of if he gets in that water, he's going to turn the water black, or I don't know what it's whatever it's on his skin is gonna contaminate us. I'm just not sure. So you see that you can observe that just their sheer ignorance of not knowing and not wanting to learn anything. That's what put them in a place, and it continues to do that now throughout, our society where people just don't know and they don't want to learn.
No, they don't. And I guess you're right. They probably just assumed because he was with them that they would get a pass.
Yes.
But it shows you how ignorant people were that they just did not. And it's not ignorance, it's just, it's not I don't think it was the intent. It's just they were ignorant to what was true.
Right.
What was true to
Right.
happen. And and I just felt so bad. But then the other part that really got me was that if I was the coach, I would have said, well, if he can't go in, then none of us are going in. And
Uh,
then we would have gone someplace else.
yes.
And I
And
think
done
that's
something else.
what that was something else. Or done something else, gone to get pizza or something. But that was what really bothered me. And I think that's what bothered the young man, the older gentleman who she
Yes.
spoke with. He's like,
Yeah.
if I had to do it all over again, I would have done something different.
Right.
Because why torture him like that?
Right.
That's probably why he walked home. He's like, you all did that to me.
Right.
Plus, they don't realize they put his life at risk by allowing them to put him in that pool. What
Yes.
would they do
Because what
if
if
he
he
had
would
touched
have fallen off? I mean, he was a
yeah,
stiff as a board on that on that float. I
he
was
could
like,
be scared
I
to
wouldn't even
death.
want to go.
I'm gonna
Never mind.
die.
Yes. And
They
and and,
could
and
never
God
let that
forbid him say, if God forbid he say no, thank you, because then they say, oh, now you're being smart.
yeah,
He had to get on that float. I don't think he had an alternative. If he would have said no, thank you, and even no, thank you for them, they would have made him then get on that float because now you are being dismissive and you're being disrespectful because we said you can and you don't want to. So I just think he was stuck between a rock and a hard place with, okay, this is, I guess I'm going to have to go and do this. I mean, he looked mortified.
he was just scared. He was
Right,
so scared.
right,
I felt
right,
so bad for him. And it was such a telling piece of wow, look what's happening
right,
to this young man, and look how
right,
oblivious people are. You have the people who are just straight up, being treating him as he's less than,
right,
and then you had other group of people who just were oblivious. It's like, how could you not know that this was going to happen,
right.
and why did you allow that? That wasn't smart to
No,
allow him to. That put his life in danger.
yeah.
It was just it was just striking. But I loved how they foreshadowed that in the beginning of the movie when they take her to the assisted living place and he's looking up in the
Yes,
cloud,
yes,
says, "I see boys. Can you see their arms?
yeah,
They're laughing. They're
yeah.
splashing in the pool." And she's like, "Okay, mom, you have such an imagination. You
But
laugh."
you know what?
Boys
I
laughing.
saw that when I looked into those clouds. I
Oh, yeah,
can
I
literally see somebody's
do.
body,
Yeah.
you can see that happening, like, right before you, and I was like, "Wow, I can envision that." But
Yeah.
it again, with the Trayvon, she started out right out of the gate with that and just stopped in the middle and started, and then with her mom, and you're thinking, pool. What are you talking about? Like, because we
Right.
hadn't gotten to that yet. So we're
No,
like,
we
oh, right,
yes, I was taken totally aback when she found the article. I was like, "Oh my gosh." She sees that her mom really was speaking to
right,
something that's true
right.
because her mother said, "It's true."
It's true.
That's what her mother said to
Right.
her, "It's
Yeah.
true," and she was like, "Okay, mom, you have such an imagination."
Yeah.
Um I found it to be so, shocking that, that was something that came later in the movie. It was great foreshadowing. I'm hoping that she wrote it that way in the book, but or it was Ava's genius in how she layered it for us.
Yeah,
I don't know how
I
it
don't remember hearing that as
Mhm.
part of the read. I mean, well, the Audible. I don't remember her mom mentioning that in the book, as that, because Ava, like, I think she is like a mastermind when it comes to, she writes so well. Like she did Selma, and I was like, oh my gosh, she is writes where you're feeling, and it's almost how do you write where someone can literally feel the writing. And so yeah, from what I can remember in my hearing it, I do not remember her mother in the Audible mentioning anything about the clouds and in the gentleman.
Yeah, that's Ava's genius because
Yeah.
she actually wrote the screenplay and
Right.
she directed it. So I think it was her way of layering it. So I really
Yes.
figured that she layers this to make sure that we are introduced to all those pieces because it's a
As they're
talent to
coming through. Right.
yeah, we
Right.
come through so we can receive it in a way that we're really going to be able to connect with it.
Right.
Beautiful, beautifully written.
Very well.
Um Okay, so I want us to jump into some character analysis. I actually did not realize that, I'd never really heard the conversation between Trayvon and his friend on the phone when he was walking. That was new to me. I think I was so traumatized when it all happened.
Right.
I knew that he was murdered. I knew he didn't do anything wrong. I knew that it was by a Latino in the neighborhood. I knew all the logistics of it, right?
Right.
But I did not really know exactly what happened from the time that he was going to the store and he was coming back. That the reason he put his hood on is because it was raining.
Right.
And,
Right.
he was just a young man who was going to get some candy and walking home, and he was just murdered. And hearing that, I did not realize, and I think because I just didn't want to hear it all, and
Right. Right.
I
Right.
know to hear these things, but I did not connect that the police or the 911 caller was on the phone, or the police was on the phone when he was
Yeah.
actually murdering
Yes.
Trayvon,
Yes.
and he
Yes.
could hear what was happening. That was just that was awful,
It
and
was.
I'm so glad that she educated us on that, but go ahead. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, and it's hard to watch. Like I said, like the second time I watched, and third was at home because by this time it's no longer in the theaters. So the second time I was attempting to watch it, it was after a day of work, and it was about 7 o'clock, and I was like, you know what? I started it, and then I saw Trayvon, and I know that it was just a peak of it, but I had to stop. I was like, you know what? I had a long day at work. I'm not going to watch that tonight because it gets in your mental, not in a bad way, but in a way that I was like, I think I'm going to need to do maybe some comedy or something, but I can't do that tonight. So, like you said, knowing he put his hood on and the guy merely chased him down because he's like telling his girlfriend, I don't know what he's doing now. He's watching me, and he stopped, and then he stops, and he just gets out of his own car. He's not bothering anybody. He's just walking home, and George literally gets out of his car and goes over to him, and
And murders him.
and murders him. And oh, by the way, I'm sorry.
He
Then you walk
murdered
out
him.
of court. Then you walk out of court. I'm not sure. I don't
I
know
do
how
not
that's even okay.
understand.
I don't know how
Yeah,
that is okay. So, I find that, part of this is just in the trenches of our society where it's okay. And you
mhm.
can make up a story that presents well enough for you fearing for your life because you got out of your truck and you approached someone. I don't know how that even matches up with you having a fear. You're in a truck, and he's walking. Leave him be.
Mhm. Yeah, leave them be.
Right.
Um, the other one that the other characters, were the German man and the Jewish woman. They fell in love.
Oh
I
yeah,
did not realize that they had a child together.
I
Did you
didn't.
see that when they actually finally caught them and,
Yeah.
separated them? They
Yes.
took their baby.
Yes.
Don't really tell they don't say what happens to him, but you see
No.
her later when they have her and they're cutting her hair. I don't know if she lost her child,
Yes.
their
Likely.
child,
Right.
but they were I just thought she was so right. I had written later about how, Isabel talked about how the foundation of the caste system was endogamy, restricting marriage of people in the same caste.
Right.
So I was just so taken aback on how within all the pieces that she showed with us about how marrying within your own caste or creating children within your own caste was just that was the root of a caste system,
Right.
making sure that people didn't have that intermixing. And that right there, that was actually the beginning of us learning about her profession, was her sharing her first book, which I also bought. I don't know if you got that one. I think it
I
was The Warm December
Yes, I
something.
saw that. I have not gotten that. I after I finish
Yeah,
this Audible, I plan to listen to that one. Yes, but I have not
but
gotten that
I got them both. I just said I'm just going to
one.
get it. I have a number of
I
Audible credits I hadn't
Yes,
used.
I learned about it after I started this one. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna finish this one. Then the movie came
Yeah,
out, and I was like, oh, I have that, and I'll go back to that. But I clearly I love how she writes and captures
absolutely.
things, and she's a great writer. So I definitely am something that I do want to hear because I can't turn pages anymore. That's just I just am not I can't do that anymore. I have to
No, I
hear.
understand. I understand. With us and working women, I think it's just great when you can hear it as you're driving or you're going. I love that
Yes,
we can listen to books now.
yes.
But that story from the beginning was actually a part of her first book, and she was speaking to
Excuse me.
how, no worries, how he made this conscious choice on, I am not going to support this because I am in love with this Jewish woman. Yeah,
Yes.
so I just really thought that the layering was pretty amazing on how she layered these different stories throughout and just didn't lay it all on us at the same time, and in the end they all connected. So the next one that I have here is the relationship or the characters, the anthropologists, the black couple,
Oh
and then the
wow.
white couple. They were all four anthropologists, and they
Yeah.
all and how the black couple was actually in Germany when the Nazis took over and were trying to cast out the Jews. I didn't know that history, that you had these two black anthropologists, and that was just so troubling. And about the books, they were in the library, they were getting these books, they were looking for another book. I then found out later that the reason why they couldn't find that book is because they were collecting all of these books to burn, and I
Well,
was like,
and
"Oh my."
so how fitting is that to today's
Yes.
just in time? Let's do a time capsule and bring us to today from there.
Yes.
So they're burning books, but they're
Mhm.
doing the same thing. They're just not burning the books. You know how history repeats itself? And
Yes.
to that, I was like, that is amazing that they're literally burning the books because they probably could. They didn't have all these different things set in place where you can't be too literal about certain things, right? So they're not
Mhm.
burning books today. What they are doing is it's just deciding that certain books shouldn't be in the library, certain books shouldn't be in schools, certain books. Oh, by the way, because of what they speak to, Oh, it's history. So if you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going, but you want to erase it all together. So let's just
Yeah.
not allow these books in the schools. And then the teachers are penalized if they decide that they would like for that to be a part of what they're teaching, what their plan is. And how
Mhm.
is that? I mean, I'm not sure, but you do need history. So maybe some of the other things that are out, George Washington and Abe Lincoln, and some of these books that show that there is actually slavery. Why don't you take those out? You seem to be taking out the books that are by African Americans. Like, it is not a certain group. It's not a certain type of book. I think it's the group of people that are writing the books where they are pinpointing those books to be taken out because they're teaching too much. And why wouldn't you want people to know that? Again, it's, to me, it's ignorance. You don't
Mhm.
know, but you don't want to open your minds to know. And that is
Mhm.
what ignorance is. And so if you have that in any system, people aren't going to learn about other people.
No, and that's the point. They
Hmm.
don't want us to learn. I wrote down the quote, or I noted the quote. When you burn books, you end up burning men. That
Yep.
was by Heinrich Heine. I may not be pronouncing his name correctly. He was a
Yes.
poet who was German and Jewish.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I thought that was poignant for what you were saying for today, because
Yes.
they really want to begin the wipeout of us again
Hmm.
by wiping out diversity.
Yep.
They want to wipe out the affirmative action laws. They want to wipe out diversity. They want to wipe out abortion. They want to wipe out everything. And it's just
Yes.
so interesting. It's like we're going backwards. We're going against everything that our civil rights leaders fought for us all to have.
Right.
Very interesting, and I thought it was so poignant to what, like you said, what is happening today. My daughter and both of our daughters being avid readers, right? I thought it broke them burn all of those books, and it also broke my heart even more when you went back to see the memorial in Germany,
Yes.
where they had that glass window that you can look down
Oh,
in to
look.
see the shelves were
Yes.
empty,
Yes.
all
Yes.
those books were gone.
They were
And it
gone.
was a beautiful library. How the Black anthropologist, who was played by one of my favorite actors, Jasmine Cephas Jones.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yes.
That's her father. I love her father. He passed away recently. He was on
Oh,
This Is Us, but
okay.
she was also in Hamilton.
Oh,
She
great.
was in
Okay.
the original cast of Hamilton, but she played the wife of the Black anthropologist,
Mhm,
the
mhm.
woman Black anthropologist. But when she says it's just such a beautiful library, it just broke my heart, because for people who love to read, that's such a joy. It's like
Yeah.
that's your full imagination,
Well,
and they say, they had this quote about how they burned all of that history and that imagination. Oh, they destroyed 20,000 books
yep.
were destroyed. And they talked about how that destroyed books that were filled with imagination and history. 20,000 books.
Can't imagine. I mean, and now and you really think about it, libraries are here. I don't know that I've stepped foot in a library in such a while because, it's COVID and or you get Audible and I don't even know what a current to date library looks like. But I
Mhm.
know they still have them, and I
Mhm.
know they're still happening. But Barnes and Noble, some of them were closed down. Borders, I think all of those were closed down. So
Yeah,
I
they
think that
were.
people they just they don't want you to have a place where you can kind of for lack of better words hang your hat and kind of just hang out in that space and read and just be part of that community because there are still a community of people who read.
Oh, absolutely. They
Right.
read hardback books. My daughter of them. She stays in the library.
Right.
So she loves it. And I'm glad that there are still some very and well, we have our most important library, which is the Library of
Right. Congress.
Congress.
Yes.
But she her favorite right now is the Martin Luther King Library.
Hmm.
I think lives there. If I was ever looking for her, I can look on my Find a Friend and she would be there. But yeah, I think that they're still there, but I fear that we have these people who are in government now who want to strip those libraries,
Yes,
just like the Nazis stripped the libraries in Germany. And I fear that that's what will happen. I just pray that we don't get to that point. I hope we can get back to the point where we're not going that far backwards. We are going so far backwards already, though.
absolutely.
Um, let me see. I think there was one other character. No, I went through all of my character analysis. Were there any other characters? I have character relationships, but I didn't know if you wanted to analyze any of the other characters.
I don't think analyzing them, the relationships, I guess we could move to that one because I think the analyzing, it was more of the black couple, the white couple being in the same area and noticing how they were treated and actually, that whole study that went on between them and it being something that, at some point it was a phenomenon of okay, we already know. I mean, in the scene where the police officers driving through the white neighborhood and
Yeah.
they're waving and he's stopping and he's smiling and then he goes to the African American or the black neighborhood and they're like everyone stops, everyone's pausing, everyone, it's almost like fear of no movement. Don't you catch his eye, don't you look me in the eye,
Mhm.
and you just stand still and don't give me any reason to shoot, almost, I mean, that's the fear of, they were just fearful of, I don't know, I don't want to say anything, I don't want to make the wrong move, so I'm just going to stand still until he leaves. And he drove through as if, to say, you better not.
Yes. Yeah,
So
it was very telling to see the difference.
right.
But I wanted in that particular segment, I just found it so, and I know I've seen this before, but wasn't it just awful how they just had the children there? Like it was like they were watching some sort of movie when they were doing a lynching, when
Oh
they were
my God.
high up,
They took
and
the
they were
photo
taking
of them.
photos of them in front of the lynched
What?
person.
Yes. And he's like, here, I want you to get the front row. And he puts his daughter on
Yes.
his shoulders. And I'm like, are you kidding me right
It's
now?
like, you
That's
are you
okay.
kidding?
Yeah.
That shows you how it's systemic though,
Yeah.
how they make it systemic. It
Exactly.
was
Exactly.
just they touched on so much in that one segment,
Mm.
just about the fear, but I loved how you had this couple, this white couple, they were friends for years,
Yes.
how
Yeah.
they understood and they did that together. He was like, "My friend, I'm fearful for your life," and
Yeah.
the black guy was like, "Don't worry about me.
Mm-mm,
You're
I need to get this
information of
done.
me. We need to get
Right.
this information for this book so we can get
Right.
it out."
Right.
I
Right.
They were all so brave, all of them.
Oh, all of them were very brave. I
All
mean,
of them were
even
brave. Yes.
to keep that away from even being in the community that you're sitting in, that you're being a part of. I mean, your lives were on the line, and any wrong move. I mean, even his white counterpart, him being neighborly with some of the people in the community, them saying, "Oh, they're just getting a little bit, beside themselves," and you're like, "Oh, really?" Hoping, and that's where he tried to warn him, and he's like, you know what, this is for a reason, and
The
it's
hype
not it,
bears,
and
yeah.
we need to have a voice in this, and
Yes.
that's where we stand with most things. If you don't have a voice, there won't be any change.
Yeah, there won't be
Mhm.
any change.
Mhm.
That's one of my quotes is, "You don't escape trauma by ignoring it, but rather confronting
Running
it."
it. I have that
That
right.
was one of my favorite
Yeah.
quotes,
Yeah.
because that speaks to that. He's like, "It may be traumatic, but I gotta confront it,
Yeah, we
for
need
a
to
higher
face it.
power."
Yes,
Mhm.
and and that's why most of what's happening is we are pushing through, because if you stop, I mean, one of the quotes was the guy in India, when he was telling Isabel, he's like, you know what, there is unending violence here, and every 15 minutes, every day, the Dalits are brutalized to keep them in their place. 15 minutes, every 15 minutes there's a rape, there's a murder. I just can't imagine that being okay. It's a whole race of people. That's like a genocide. And they
It
and it is that they continue to do that, and they stay in their place. They know what the Dalits knew what their place was. I mean, in that movie, just to see them kind of moving through it as if it's just normal.
I
I
know.
I just can't imagine how they move through it, just going through someone's feces and just cleaning out these toilets of such, and it was okay. And they didn't appear to be phased by it. They went down, they came up, and that was for me. I just with the deaths that Isabel experienced, and watching that, I mean, I had the same feeling of like just an empty stomach, just
Yes.
a moment of like stillness where, okay, I just kind of need to get myself together emotionally and psychologically, because if people can get through these things, and then, my little first world problems, I guess, are like, oh, okay. But still, does anyone have a voice for these people? They are continuing to do that, and there's no change.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I feel I wrote down that they are called the untouchables.
Yes.
It showed how they the person who they honor, I guess the educator who, and
Yes.
who was fighting to get their rights changed,
Hmm.
how when he was a little boy that he couldn't be with the other kids, and when he was in
Oh my
school, and
gosh.
he couldn't touch the water canister, that they had to pour it down his mouth, that
Right.
he had to sit in the back and,
On the
take care
floor.
of this
Right.
and things on the floor, that he had to, that he there was just so much that he could not do, but he kept persevering and he kept fighting to get his education. And, he was educated. He was so
Yes.
educated. He
Yes.
tried fought for them for his race to continue. And I think that the young people who were speaking in that, where you found that quote with that
Yes.
professor, they
Yes.
are the results of everything that he fought for, because
Right.
they are still fighting to be educated and to not live that story, not live that life. But unfortunately, there are many who still
Who just
are,
don't get
and
on and don't get out.
who, yeah, they aren't able to get out,
Right.
because that's where they've
Their
been
mindset.
cast.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's
their
today. It's like I did not realize that that was happening today. That
right.
was just so crazy to me. I It's just sad.
Yeah.
But let me see. I wanted to go into Marion's relationship with Isabel. How she, they kind of they layered that relationship, because she was there talking to her, but when she was putting her mom in the assisted living, just showing the development of their relationship from children onto. I love how Marion grounded her. How
Yes.
to
Yeah.
her. She was like, "Okay, now that you said it all your educated way, can you just
Yeah, you
talk to
just
me?"
I just need you to give it to me. I just need for you to give it to me in layman's terms, because I'm not gonna understand that. And if I don't, half the people aren't. I mean, what are you saying, really? I mean, and I
Mhm,
love how supportive she was with
mhm.
and with her, and then talking through it. And then I loved how when she was in India and she's like, well, and I mean, this must have been when she was in Germany, and she said, and she and the woman who said, the 6 million
Yeah.
Jews. And she's like, well, what did you say? She said, well, I'm my mother's child. I didn't say anything. She said, you never say anything. I mean, when we were kids, you just kind of sat there and you said, yes, the next day you always had something you would have said to it. You didn't say anything to her. You should have said something to her. She's like, well, I did what I did. So I love that, Marion, like you said, I love that, keeping her grounded, letting her know that it's okay every now and again to have a voice. It's all in the presentation of it. But you could tell clearly, even with the gentleman who came over to fix her basement and the water damage that he
Oh
did
my
to her
god.
basement. Wow. Wow.
Thank you. I did not write that down. You are so right. But
Right.
do you see how she turned it around? She was
Yes.
so eloquent,
Yes. I
because
mean,
he wasn't gonna help her. He
he
was
was.
like, "Yeah, I don't like you. I don't know who you
You're
think you
black.
are."
He had on
You're
his nice
black,
little
I'm white.
white. He had on his hat. Yeah,
His hat, the great, what is it
make
called?
this
Make America
Make
Great or
America
something.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was definitely telling her things. People through their T-shirts, through their hats. These are different phases. People know where you're coming from. All they have to do is read your hat, T-shirt, and they figure out what your stance is. And she knew exactly. He just came in there with an attitude, and I'm just like, well, here it is. This is what it is. And she's like, oh, have you ever had a death? And he's talking about his mother and his father. He's a mean old man, and guess what? He's still living.
yeah. His
Because
mother died at 52 or
yeah,
something. Yeah.
yeah, that's just quite young. But he then began to soften because people have they you can then show where you have some kind of togetherness or you share sentiments about certain things.
Mhm.
And I guess there are people's experiences that harden them. And seemed like his father was not nice and he's still living and he said he's a mean old person. So he probably has to deal with that. And that's part of his attitude and then just moving
Mhm.
through his life and through the day. So
Mhm.
I love her relationship with her cousin. I think her cousin Miriam kept her in a good place, and I
Mhm.
think with the family respected her, when they had the whole cookout. She's like, listen, you're going to eat when I say it's time to eat. And they
And she
respect her.
mean well. They mean well because they were trying to let her know you need to get a black man now because Brett was Caucasian.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
They're
yes.
like, okay, time for Brett's gone. Let's get you a black man.
Now
She's
let's
like,
start fresh and new. And Brett appeared to love her to his core.
oh my
Oh
gosh, it
my,
was such a beautiful love
it
story. I
really
love how they
was.
showed how they met and how he came in already. He's like,
Yeah,
I'm taking care of this woman. He
right.
was like, I need you to come have a piece of cake with me. I just
It's my
love
birthday. And she's like,
him.
it's your birthday. Well, and you know what she said in the movie? She said it. We never, ever had a bad moment. We
Right.
were always together. We did this together. What am I supposed to do without him? He was my guy. Like, she knew she could count on him. The key thing, oh my gosh. Though, if she couldn't find those keys, I was like, listen, I don't know where the keys are. But her mama found them for her. He found them for her, and I was just like, "What? What are you doing with the keys?" He's like, "All you gotta do is put on the hook." So he kept her together, but he loved her to his core, and it was a love that you can just feel it. Sometimes you can feel a vibe between people.
Yes, I love him as an actor. I don't know if
Yes,
you've ever experienced John Berthenol. I'm probably saying his name wrong, so please forgive
Berthanol.
me. Berthenol.
Is it
Um,
Berthanol, something like.
Aw.
Yes,
Yeah, I had told you about that show, The Bear, and he played
yes.
a role in The Bear.
Okay,
So that's something for you to again to have a reason to go watch that one. But
right.
I love him as an actor. He knows how to get the character across in any layer of wherever he is.
Right.
He's like a chameleon.
Okay.
So I just thought
I've
his
never
love.
seen him. I'll have to watch that.
Yes, I just thought his love for her was so, intimate, and it was real. It came across as authentic. It
Very
was
authentic.
authentic.
Yes, it was. It was very
Love
authentic.
it 'cause she was a full-figured Black
Yeah.
woman, and he
Yes.
was like,
Yes.
"Love
Yeah.
I love all of you."
Absolutely. She felt very comfortable around him. It was a love that you could just feel watching the screen. And I'm sure that had a lot to do with Ava and the choice of the cast and all
Mhm.
those things, but
Yes,
it was so
yes.
well put together. I was like, ooh, I have to find me a love like that.
I was like, "Okay, John."
Yes. And you know what? You know what show it reminds me of? A lot of you and
Mhm.
Phil. A lot of
Oh,
you and Phil. Yes, I love to watch the two of you together and how he takes care of you, and you're just oh my Phil. I so yeah. I'm
I
sorry I'm
love
putting that
my
out there
girl.
that that's not
No,
true.
you're
I
right,
hope
and
that's
I
not going to
did.
be cut.
No, 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 that's fine. I connected with that when she found him because I cannot imagine. I also connected, to be honest with you, I didn't want to say this because of the fact that, we're friends. I just pray that you and Michelle and Debbie know that if anything happened to Phil Parker, I would not be able to breathe. And I would hope you guys would come
Oh,
to do for me
absolutely. Oh
what Barry
yes.
did for her because I
Yeah,
would not be able to
I know. I already know.
function.
Yes,
So you're right.
I know.
I
Mhm.
did connect with
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
So, you know, so I wanted to, we kind of covered everything. Is there anything that you felt like we missed in covering?
No, I know that. Let me see if there was anything. You went over the quotes. Um, oh, so I do know that there was something that Isabel said that just, to kind of bring it full circle is caste is not hatred. It is the warm grooves of expectations, and it's been in place so long that it appears to be normal.
Yes.
So anything that just goes like, on and on, it just
Mm,
appears to be normal because you're doing it for so long that you don't even know how to shift. You don't even know if there's supposed to be a shift. And so with that, you just go on with it like it's supposed to be. And that's where, certain things that are happening you don't pay attention to. I mean, there are things that are happening right now in politics and our Congress, and people don't pay attention because you're paying attention to what's going on over here, and this is actually happening.
yes.
And then when it's too late. It's now you want to get a reaction, but now things have been put in place. And how do you undo something for as long as it took to get it done, to undo it, and now to get it back, like, Roe v. Wade. These are things that, we have to really pay attention to. In addition to the dehumanization, what she said is attaching a stigma to an entire group, right? So if you attach it to one person, that's not going to be effective. But if you attach it to a whole group, the race is not the same as a caste. The race doesn't matter because in India, all of them are the same color. So there's no
Yes.
race issue. It's a caste issue. And,
Yeah,
and that's
it's like
where they're trying to
casting.
capture, right? Well, when you dehumanize people like they did with the Jews, you take all that away. Like he said, we're going to take away their nice cars and their homes. And then you make them feel a certain kind of way. And after a while, sometimes people just begin to move like you make them feel. So you have to be mindful of these things as they're happening because once they happen, it's hard to undo.
You reminded me of something though. How about how the Nazis used American slavery as the blueprint
Oh my goodness.
to do the Holocaust
Right. Right.
in
And
the
they said that.
world?
And they said that. And we had a conversation about that. We were like, but and at some point they were like, "Ooh, I don't know what America's doing. That's just bad. We're not going to do it to that extent. We're going to
They
be
said,
we're going to be a little softer about how we present this, but America is doing they're on some different stuff. I don't know what they're on, but they're doing things a lot different than we are. And I don't know if it's something that we should be doing, but we're going to get them enough to for them to believe this about who they are. But I don't know. America's doing different. We're going to skip that step.
we're not going to go that far. I
Yeah,
just
we're going
thought,
to skip that
oh
step.
my gosh! And she found the actual transcript of the
Yes,
conversation,
of the conversation
and
of
they
them sitting at
it's
the
a
table.
law.
Oh,
What in the world?
I
I
don't.
was like, "That is crazy." I
Yes,
didn't know
yes,
that that happened. Thank you for I didn't wanna forget that. I did have them in my notes, but I
yeah,
forgot to say it.
yeah.
So, one of the other quotes that I had was, "Racism is the primary language to understand everything is insufficient."
Hmm.
That kind of feeds into what you were saying when she goes into the cast. And then a cast is the artificial cutting up of each unit. And this was the full statement about endogamy, how endogamy is the foundation. It is the ironclad foundation of any caste system. They want to get rid of the children. They want to get rid of
Yep.
anything has any mixture. So
Then
there's the
you wash it all out. Then it's all gone. It's
wash
like
it
when
all
it's gone. You can't do anything. You can't make it because you don't have now the ingredients to put that whole that cake together, for lack of better words. I can't make this cake anymore because I don't have the vanilla or the chocolate. And
out.
so if we just have the chocolate or we just have the vanilla, we can't do vanilla and chocolate now. And so now we can't keep that going because now we're at a point where it's only one. and not the other. So, and then, I remember something along the lines that caste is a phenomenon of placing one group above another in a hierarchy. So it's just placing that one group above the other group, and it's not racism. It is a caste, because then you feel, like I said, they make you feel some kind of way. Your mindset is that, and you kind of fall in
Mhm,
place.
mhm. So no, this was a very powerful it just was a powerful book. I'm looking forward to listening to it,
Hmm.
so I can learn more and I can understand. But I think this movie is a movie that every person of color should see. I believe every human being
Yeah.
should see it. So
Yes.
we all could really understand how we treat each other
Yeah.
and how we have to think through this concept of how one person feels that they're better than the other.
Absolutely.
There's no way we can get past the Indian professor says we have not yet seen the beauty of what humans can offer
Hmm.
until we're able to that then we won't be able to be in peace together. We wanna build each other up, all of us, whether we're
Right.
Jewish, whether we're Asian,
Right.
whether we're Latino, whether we're Black, whether we're, from Africa, whether we're from African Americans, wherever we're from, we have to find the best of our humanity. So I just really, I enjoyed having this conversation with you.
Yes, I
I
enjoyed it. Thank you.
related to I think that, there's more conversation to be had.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can come back and talk about the books again once after we read them to compare. But I just, I thank you for even bringing this movie to my attention because you're the reason why we're doing this
Well,
recap
thank you.
because you brought it to my attention, and I'm just so blessed that I was able to experience and understand Isabel's vision and her story and Ava's vision. So I want to thank you so much again, Janine,
You're
for
welcome.
joining today and sharing your powerful thoughts on the movie. And for the Hot Nerd Network, if you enjoyed this content, then please give us a thumbs up, leave your thoughts in the comments, and to make sure that you hit the subscribe button because we want you to just enjoy the content that we have here at the Hot Nerd Network. And we really thank you for just being a part of it. So thanks again, Hot Nerd Network family, and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.